When you're attached to something imperfect, naturally, it's the same suffering. We always suffer. Before speaking about this, I will offer my obeisances. There exist different feelings. Certain worship the truth to have more material happiness, more attachments. It's what we call fruitive activity. Certain people worship the absolute truth to detach themselves from suffering. And when you arrive in a state of neutrality, that's what we call Shantaras. In the state of neutrality, we perceive the truth in ourselves and in others, and we can understand why people suffer. And naturally, the compassion is there. For example, even materially speaking, if you're very rich and that you see someone who is poor, who is cold, you can feel compassion. So what will you think? You will say, I will give something so that the person is relieved from suffering. It's natural. Or if a person can be bad, she can think, oh, what is this person doing in the street, begging? We can also have this wrong mentality because we're bathing in ignorance. But when we bathe in goodness and in good thinking, naturally, even if we have a materialistic thinking, but we don't have a search for the absolute truth, we can have this inspiration for compassion and wanting good for others. And if we have money, invest our money so that people suffer less. And it's the same way. Someone who arrives in his degree where he can be satisfied in himself, and he understands that because people are looking for happiness outside, and outside means attachment to imperfect things, and that they must suffer. So we feel great compassion. And this compassion will bring us to want to help others on a spiritual platform. This is what we call Shantaras. Shanta means it is a state where we find ourselves freed from ignorance. Shanta. And naturally, we can feel a difference in this state between bliss of the soul, what we feel, and bliss, that the love that people are looking for. We can understand that there are states that are in certain way that are not, I would say, surreal. They are wrongly directed. When we direct wrongly our life, the reaction we will receive naturally is a reaction that will nourish this ignorance that is deep within us. So, when we direct in an attentive and concentrated way our being towards the truth, then naturally we have an inspiration to observe another platform. And it is explained, it's just like the sage. It's just like a personality who can retract his senses from action. And he can observe. And he can also feel observed. Everything depends on the relationship that he has with the truth. Because the truth reciprocates with the living beings. For example, in Bhagavad Gita, there's this famous verse, Yatamam prapadyante. Krishna explains that, the Lord explains that I reciprocate with the living beings. So we all have a connection with this truth. And this truth is attentive to our need. and attentive to the relationship that we want to establish with her. That's where there are different paths and different feelings, and we must learn to respect each other, because it is the same truth that reciprocate with everyone. Myself, I remember I went to visit a Buddhist center. It was in Bourgogne, a big temple with 1,000 Buddhas. And when I went around a stupa, I was with a lama, and he made me visit the stupa, and I had felt really this strong, powerful awakening that the Buddhists feel. And this is something that is very strong. But that was different from what I was conceiving with my relationship with the truth. And I could understand without being fanatic, because the experience is there, that was the same truth that could nourish everyone. What is a religious and what is a transcendentalist? A religious is someone who does not have necessarily the spiritual experience. So naturally, his reference are the texts. He is full of rules, and everything that's different from the text and the rules, he does not know. It's strange, and naturally, there is a negativity that appears in the sense that this person thinks that others are in a wrong path. But when there's this experience, it's completely different, because you can also have the experience of others, and you can understand by your own experience that the faith is born in a person by the experience. If there's no experience, it is simply fanaticism. But fanaticism is the antipode of love. It is because of people who don't have experience on the name of truth, on the name of God, no matter how they call him, that there are abominable actions committed. For example, I went to see a movie on the Buddhists in Burma, and I could not believe that Buddhists could persecute others. There's always this part of personality that don't have the experience, and because there's no experience, naturally, there's a hatred of others. The experience means we can understand others. We can understand by our own faith the others. When there's no experience, it is ignorance. And for example, it is true that I talked to a Buddhist once, really good person, wonderful, and she was telling me, Siddhartha was a person who was living the experience, and his teaching was an experience. And that's why people adopted this path, because it is a path by the experience. For example, when you say something and you exaggerate, for example, if you hold this in your hands, then you will have unlimited love. It's exaggerated, you understand? It's a crude example, but you understand. So from there, if the path is exaggerated and does not give the fruits, there will always be a frustration. So we need a philosophy so that the path and the practice can be understandable, but we need for this path to bring to an experience. Without this, we will find ourselves with a group of frustrated people. Instead of developing love, they will develop hatred towards others. And that is the trap. That we must truly understand how to have the experience. And the experience does only come with good attitude. That is why the great masters always taught in parallel with the development of love, in the development of spiritual awakening, that we have to be in parallel, we need good attitude. That's why if the attitude is not good, we can worship, we can practice, but the fruit will not come easily. So we need this good attitude. And this good attitude, finally, it can easily be explained. What we would like to receive, we should give it to others. So we must analyze our own life. We need moments of analysis, and we should not be like robots who run and we're just in the process without never analyzing their existence. We must introspect ourselves. In such time I acted like this. Was it a good thing? We must have a discrimination. We must meditate. And meditate does not mean with our false ego, a cowboy, just like a cowboy. Because the answer will be, I acted really good, I should get a reward. It's not like this. The introspection must come from a state where we can enter in ourselves and truly detach ourselves from all the coverings that are covering us. And in this state, the awakening, we can, in this goodness, we can truly analyze. And there we will see that we are far from good attitude. But what is interesting is that this analysis must gradually give us the desire to have good attitude. You understand? And naturally, this awareness must be accompanied by prayers, by a shelter, because on our own it is very difficult to go against this nature, this false nature that we acquired through the three modes of material nature. As soon as we touch this material world, we become influenced by the three modes of material nature. The body is a result of the influences of the material energy. The subtle body also. And automatically we have a conditioning. This conditioning is simple. If you see, we have a conditioning. For example, such thing will make us angry. We don't know why, but it's like this. Myself, for example, when I was a kid, my mother, as soon as she was speaking to me, we don't know why, we react just like by instinct, just like animals, without understanding why we have these reactions. This is the influence of the material energy. So the point is, we cannot free ourselves so easily from our conditioning. It's extremely difficult. But the one who takes shelter, so he can receive a special mercy and gradually have a good attitude. And by the attitude of service, love towards brothers, towards sisters, we will gradually have a special mercy to perceive a higher platform, the platform of love, the plane of love, this plane where we are all in harmony. And naturally, when we feel observed, we will act differently, because when we observed, so naturally, we cannot go beyond this nature, our conditioning. I'll give you a simple example. You can be as you like, but if you have an appointment with the President of the Republic or a Prime Minister, you will be nicely dressed, a nice smile, and because you're observed. So naturally, you will react differently. And in the same way, the Absolute Truth can observe you. It can have a glance upon you by your good attitude, because if you are observed, then she becomes invisible. And through this vision and this feeling, at this point, we will establish a connection with living beings on another platform, on a platform where knowledge will be emerging from us and ignorance will be chased. So, as we act on this platform, gradually there will be a disconnection from the 6 enemies of the heart: lust, envy, illusion, and we will be able to observe ourselves. That will mean when we'll be placed in goodness, not in transcendence, but when we'll be situated in goodness, we will be able to make a distinction between what is attacking us, the hatred, and our reality. And we will realize that gradually there will be less and less power in lust and hatred and in greed, because the fact that we feel observed, we will be able to also observe ourselves. And from there, we can gradually offer our obeisances to people without offending them, and we'll tell them, sorry, from today, I am not what you think. And then we will feel gradually that they will leave. It is explained when we attain the stage of Nishta, of fixation and shelter. From there, all these elements which are negative are like sleeping, because they came from tamas and rajas, from ignorance and passion. And when goodness predominates, it's just like they will be sleeping. They are present, but they cannot swallow us. You understand? Because when hatred swallows someone, it can kill someone. It can do terrible things. When lust attacks a person, that person becomes possessed. She is not freed anymore. She becomes a slave. And so this is the minimum, we will say, to be a good person. And from there, because we are situated in good attitude, we want the well-being of all living beings. Before that, we're only focused on our material problems, because we're attacked constantly. And we are attacked constantly, we do not have time really for others. We have a little bit because it gives us a satisfaction, and it's fruitive action. And from there, we become also on a platform of service, because we have a connection with a platform that allows us to understand that we are different from the body. In goodness, we can have a certain experience of the soul, and the fact that to understand that we are different from the body. We can see through goodness that bliss appears in the living being, and we can see the knowledge. Through goodness, we can have an experience of knowledge that will allow us to see the world as it is, on a certain level. And this will allow us truly to be detached and attached to the truth. And naturally, what happens is that compassion starts truly to appear in our heart, tolerance, good respect, all the good qualities. And we desire, naturally, the good of living beings. This is why this platform of existence that we call Shanta is a platform between matter and complete transcendence. There's no relationship with the truth. It is neutrality. Most spiritualists are on this platform of neutrality. And this is the base. Shanta is the foundation of all authentic spiritualists. Before, you are convinced that you are the only one to have the truth. I'm sorry, but we are the only one. So if someone thinks otherwise, then we consider him inferior. You would not give him love, etc., etc., etc. But you have nice discourses. Your discourses are amazing. But inside, it is different from what we look outside. There's a difference. You understand? Because there's not the experience. In this stage of neutrality, there is an experience. And this experience, after, according to the path that everyone has, will manifest in the form of a love that is somehow different, in the sense that, for example, in Vaishnavas, the truth is a person, because for a Vaishnav, he wants to find the source of the absolute truth. Loving feelings, exchange, relationship, everything can be experienced. But this is a personal desire. It is a personal desire, because I desire to a relationship with this truth. I desire to love. I desire that source to love me. This is something personal. You understand? But after, since the absolute truth has different faces, everyone perceives it differently and has an experience. For example, if you go see Christians, the Christians have an experience of Jesus, a very strong experience of Jesus. They can even see the world where Jesus is present, etc. And it's a reality. Such and such path gives an experience. We cannot say the experience is not good. But if we are dishonest because we don't have ourselves the experience, and that we cannot understand that this truth can express itself in so many different ways, because it can satisfy all these spiritual desires, like material also. So naturally, the dishonesty will not make us appreciate each other, and this is not a good thing. We must really be in proper respect of all living beings. Really, I know, in my life as a spiritualist, I saw so many conflicts between people, and this is always something that made me suffer. I remember when I started my spiritual practice, my spiritual life, I went into a community and I had a heart full of love, and I was not really appreciated because I had these deep feelings of love, because I was surrounded by old monks and with dry hearts. So I had no choice but to become dry if I wanted to stay with them. But it's not something that I appreciated. But the experience I had with them allowed me to understand these certain mistakes we should not do. And that was essential in my life. So, the language of love is always a language where the experience is positive, because we learn. We are on a platform of learning from others. We never think we know everything. As soon as we enter in contact with someone, we say, oh, this person is just like my master, because he's more qualified than myself. He has more love than me. This is a Vaishnava. A Vaishnava is always surprised. He always learns from others. This is respect. If we do not see love, if we do not see people are our friends, how can we respect them? You understand? I remember, for example, when I went to preach in gangs, there was a big, tall guy that I was embracing, and I will give him a lot of love, and he loved it, because the language of love is something universal. I remember once, I often share the story. I was sitting with him like this, and I was telling him that I loved him. And then he told me, you don't know what I did in my life. He told me, Anyway, you'll never be my brother. Because in these gangs, only the members are brothers. And I remember when I took his hands, his big hands, I told him, so be my father. And it completely destabilized him. Not only him, but his brothers also. They were afraid that he would change. And we cannot fight against love. We cannot fight against sweetness. We need sweetness. We need love. This is why we practice. This is why we live. And finally, what is our life? It is experiences. And according to our experience, we will direct ourselves in this way. And if our experience is good, we stay on the path. And if our experience is not good, then we move to something else. That doesn't mean that the path is not good. That means that we fell on people that were not practicing properly, that did not have sweetness, not love. Of course, if we go see 30,000 communities and it's all the same, sometimes there are things that are not necessarily good. But generally speaking, all paths bring sweetness and love in our life. Proper respect for living beings. This is the basis. That's why we accept a path. We don't accept a path to degrade ourselves. The point is that we accept a path for sweetness and love, to progress, to become a good person. And it is true that in all groups where people practice good and other groups where people don't practice good won't have experience. We cannot escape this. This is why, before everything, my realization is that a community is a hospital. It's a place where people are healing themselves. And amongst all these people, you can have a person that is almost healed, that is at 70%, 60%. But when a person is really sick, she can commit negative actions. But we should not condemn this person. We should understand that we are in a place where we're healing ourselves. You understand? This is why when we come in a community, we should not have a bad vision on others. We should think, I'm coming in this place to heal myself, to practice. And I'm also with people who are not perfect. Because the mistake that people do is that they come in a community thinking that everyone is perfect. Because it cannot be otherwise. And then the feedback is bad. You just need someone to be frustrated, and then you say, oh, I could see they're not serious. I saw this, I saw that. We can make a big list, because for someone who is sick, there's problems every moment. This is why we must really go towards living beings, go towards another path with this open-mindedness. And this is the basis that everyone should have, this proper respect that gives the experience. I go to others not to see mistakes. Go to others understanding that they practice a process. But myself, what I practice, if I have problems, then I will meet problems. And from there, we'll be able to appreciate and have an experience. And this experience will allow us to naturally to have experience in universal faith, understanding that there's something that is uniting all of us. All of us, we must exist, because we're all different. And we should never believe that for some people it's not a good thing, etc. No. Everyone is well where he is. The Buddhist is good in his path. The Muslim is properly situated in his path, etc., etc. It's really important to understand. Me, I'm really saddened sometimes when I see sometimes I see persons who contact me by saying, we will preach, we'll convert all of them, but I say, whoa, You will change what? You want to preach what? Let them live. Let them with their faith. You will hurt. That's the only thing you will do. It's just you will hurt others. Represent your path in the perfect way. Love, respect, be sweet, tolerant, be an element that will even allow for someone who is on another path to progress also. Love, be a support for living beings and not simply a fanatic. It's super important to appreciate what others do. And we will see that we'll be much closer to the truth. It is something that is essential. That doesn't mean we should not be fixed on our path. We should have our practice because she is the path, the practice that is well for me, that is good for me. But we must also understand that others are also in this experience and they're feeling good in their path. And from this way, we can be together. It's really important. I wanted to speak about this. Thank you very much.